today we are here not to take much of your time, but to continue with the work we have been doing. We are here on sensitization that has to do with disaster risk reduction. This activity has been put in place within this period in order to begin the program of activities for the International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction, which is celebrated globally. It is a day set aside by the United Nations General Assembly, which is 13th of October every year, to celebrate the International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction. And the key thing there is to create awareness, to carry out sensitization. It is a global program. Other countries may decide to do it within 1 day, or 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. But in Nigeria, and in FCT in particular, we have always marked the International Day with program of activities that will last between 10 days and 14 days. Creating awareness is very important. This is because it has been long realized that sensitization is one of the best innovative tools to be used in managing disasters. Why do we say it is the best innovating tool? Disasters come out of hazards. And in every environment, as long as we live, we have one hazard or the other within our environment. And we are all aware that due to global change, global warming, climate change has come to stay. Not just in Nigeria, not just in FCT, but all over the world. You are aware of all the disasters that are happening in different places, either in form of flash flooding, landslide, earthquake, in-season fire outbreaks, building collapse, outbreak of epidemic, and so many others. On a day like this, that has to do with the celebration of International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction, we don't talk about one particular disaster. We talk about all the common hazards we have within our environment. Once you are able to identify the common hazards you have in your environment, then you think of how you can prevent it. You think of how you can avoid it. And that is why we have avoidable disasters. Those are the ones that are preventable. You can prevent them. If you cannot prevent it from happening, then you should begin to prepare yourself and think of how you'll be able to mitigate it in order to reduce the impact on the residents of that community, in order to save lives and properties. Disaster management is a multi-agency business. It's not a one-man's business. It's everybody's business. And in FEMA, we say, including children that are of school age. And that was why, past years, we have carried out sensitization in schools, all the FCT schools, both government and private schools, to catch them young. That is why FCT Emergency Management Agency, we always say, disaster management is everybody's business, including children that are of school age. And now we are saying that it has to go up to the grassroots. And that leads us to the theme of this year's International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction. The theme for the 2023 International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction is Fighting Inequality for Future Resilience. Fighting inequality for a resilient future. Fighting inequality for resilient future for all. Why did we say for all? FCT, we added all. It is not on the team. But in FCT, we have added all because it has to do with inclusion. When we talk about inclusion, we are simply talking about trying to make sure all the vulnerable people are carried along. Vulnerable people range from people who are living within vulnerable locations. Vulnerable people include the people that are living with disabilities, the aged, pregnant women and children. We have blind people around us in our communities. When a disaster happens, you realize that people run for their dear lives. They don't think about the little children that we have in our midst. They don't think of the aged. They don't think of the pregnant women. They don't think of the blind people. They don't think of people that are on a wheelchair. They don't think about people that don't have arms. And that is why it has to do with total inclusion. And that is what this year's team is talking about. With your key officers present here, and it is expected that you have your desk officers of the National Orientation and town criers that are here with us, and the coordinator of the Local Emergency Committee, that after this sensitization, you will be able to go around into the grassroots, into all the hamlets, carry out sensitization in different languages. We have our jingles in 5 languages so far. We got to know that there are other 9 languages, common 9 languages in the FCT, and we are working towards that. The jingles are in Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba, English, and Bagi.
On the hazard, the risk, and how to reduce it. Yes, we are quite informed. And having had you, we as a council will put heads together with the local communities so as to see how we can minimize the risk of hazards in our communities. Truly, we all knew what hazard means, and there are various ways they come to us. We have witnessed some, and we don't hope to witness others. The one we have witnessed, some of them are quite disastrous. As such, it is a pleasure, it's a good thing coming on board to once more sensitize us so that we can rise to our responsibility.
Well, like you said, Gwagwalada is a transcend to the FCT, and the hazard, as we know, is something that, of course, we are aware of it. So we have set up all the necessary machineries, the group, the whatever that are taking care of some of this. The ones we cannot do locally, we inform the security agents to come into it. But as for the flood at Giri, the community tried, and the FEMA people came on board, and they did the best they can. They have saved some situations, and we lost some lives, and to the lives they were lost, the council was able to do a little to the family to come and augment them on what happened, sympathize with them, and we did a little we can to them, to the family, to assist the family. That's what we did that time.
So sensitization is a very important aspect of disaster risk reduction. Without sensitization, people will not know how to manage disasters when they happen. And when we talk about disasters, it starts from hazards. So when we carry out sensitization like this, we try to make members of different communities to be able to identify the common hazards they have within their environment. Because it is from the hazards that it escalates to a disaster, and that will lead to loss of lives and properties. So on a day like this, when we come out, we look at that environment and think of the common disasters that are around there. Today we are in Gwagwalada Area Council, and the common hazards we have around here have to do with flash flooding. You recall some 2-3 years ago in Giri is under Gwagwalada Area Council, and Gwandodo is under Gwagwalada Area Council. There was flash flooding that washed away a family of 4, a woman and her 3 children, because they built on a waterway. And when flash flooding came, it happened at night. They were sleeping, they could not escape, and the water washed them away. Another hazard has to do with the issue of building collapse, incident fire outbreak, road crashes, and others. Sometimes we have epidemic outbreak, cholera, meningitis, and others. When things like this happen, we have to make them understand that there are common hazards that are within their environment, either because the environment is unkept, they did not clean their drainages. When you don't clean your drainages, definitely there will be accumulation of water, it will be breeding mosquitoes, there will be no free flow of water within your drainages. The other one has to do with the blockage of the drainages, that there will be no free flow of water, and then the water will come with force, or they have built on waterways. Water must find its way. When it happens, if the house is not properly built, especially if it is built on a waterway or on a swampy area, a place that is supposed to be a green area, you build a house. When we have flash flooding, definitely it will affect it. It's a common disaster, hazard. Such hazards are avoidable. These are things that when you identify them, you should be able to prevent them, avoid them. If you cannot prevent them, then you prepare to be able to mitigate it. In our communities, the local communities, what we do is we use sandbags sometimes, but we are not encouraging them to use sandbags again. We want them to evacuate and move to higher grounds, move to safer places. And that is why we carry out this sensitization, so that they'll be able to know the common hazards they have there. Building under high tension wire. Why will you build under a high tension cable? You don't know what will happen. Selling of petroleum products. You see, when we talk during this period of International Day when we are preparing to celebrate International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction, we don't just talk about one particular hazard or a particular disaster. No. It encompasses all kinds of disasters that emanate from the hazards you have within that environment. And that is it. So that is why you can see that we talk about flood, we talk about building collapse, road crashes, incident fire outbreaks, and others. You recall that we had HMO in Pape some 2 years ago. So a lot of things, because of climate change, because of global warming that has come to stay, we have to make sure we create awareness, carry out aggressive sensitization, so that people will know what it takes when you live with a particular hazard that can lead to a disaster.